Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it looks like we actually finally got a slower week, cause it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. You know, I'm not really surprised this week wound up slower. The Brent Faiyaz album bomb evaporated, and since there was very little prime to replace it, and Atlantic didn't turn on the label machine to help Lizzo get a streaming album bomb, we got a lot of returns and only a couple of gains. And considering most of it doesn't look that good, this might as well be the running indictment of the Hot 100 this year. But okay, speaking of Lizzo, let's flip to our top 10, where, as I predicted, About Damn Time got that sales boost to ride to the top spot on the radio to number 1. Whether it'll hold that spot is a bit up in the air. It's not going to face a ton of competition, but As It Was by Harry Styles is still pretty robust in all channels at number 2, even as it's starting to fade. It's going to be competitive. Then we have Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush up to number 3. Yeah, there was a slip on the sales and streaming there, but with a frankly wild radio push it's getting to narrow the margins, it's going to be fascinating to see how it holds up the next 2 weeks. Now this pushes First Class by Jack Harlow to number 4, but given how much it's slipping on the radio, not entirely surprised. Then we got Wait For You by Future, Tems, and Drake holding at number 5. It spent the week wavering on the radio, even as it held fast on streaming. And then Mi Porto Bonito by Bad Bunny and Chincho Corleone at number 6, which saw a spike on streaming, but still has no real radio to speak of. Kind of impressive it's held on this long off of really just one channel, but that means it's vulnerable to the surge of Break My Soul by Beyonce, rising up to number 7 off the strong radio, even if the sales and especially the streaming look pretty damn shaky. But hell, it was enough to muscle over Heat Waves by Glass Animals at number 8, where it looks like the radio is finally fading more consistently. And that sets it up against Late Night Talking by Harry Styles, making its return to the top 10 at number 9, even as its radio is pretty damn strong, pretty much all it's got. Finally, there's Jimmy Cooks by Drake and 21 Savage. It pretty much has streaming and nothing else, that's why it's now fading down to number 10. And on that note, our losers and dropouts. Got a pretty healthy crop of the latter this week, the majority falling short of any year-end list, like When You're Gone by Shawn Mendes, Hold My Hand by Lady Gaga, Circles Around This Town by Maren Morris, and even To the Moon by J&R Choi and Sam Tompkins, although that one might be borderline. But there were honestly more flat dropouts than losers here. The only remnant of the Brent Faiyaz album bomb is All Mine at 89, and outside of that, 7500 OBO by Tim McGraw stalled at 80, Like I Love Country Music by Kane Brown took a hit to 37, and Master of Puppets by Metallica fell to 50. I mean, come on, it's not going to have the same run as Running Up That Hill did, and given how that song is built and considerably less accessible that Master of Puppets is, that's not a surprise. No, the bigger story here is our returns and our gains, and there's a solid number of them. In the former camp, La Corriente by Bad Bunny and Tony Dice at 99, Right On by Lil Baby at 97, Until I Found You by Steven Sanchez hit 92, Bones by Imagine Dragons hit 86, Best Thing Since Back Roads by Jake Owen rebounded to 83, and See What I'm Saying by Moneybagg Yo jumped up to 77. Apparently, this is actually getting a small radio push. That did surprise me. And as for our gains, well, the big surprise for me was the continued surge for Bad Habit by Steve Lacy, all the way up to 14 thanks to massive streaming pickups. I mean, I'm not sure how long it's gonna last outside the proximity of the album, but it is worth noting there. The rest are a bit smaller. Off the debut, Last Last by Burna Boy got a boost to 72, Ghost Story by Carrie Underwood got a slight rebound to 82, and Son of a Sinner by Jelly Roll saw a jump to 61. But the rest... FNF Let's Go by Glorilla and Hit Kid went to 66, New Truck by Dylan Scott rose to 71, and Unstoppable by Sia hit 78. Just dandy here. Now, as I said, we got a pretty limited list of new arrivals. Unfortunately, we might have to start off with number 100, Pick Me Up by Gabby Barrett. Back too late, little George straight way on up. Get me out of my head and out of this town until we no matter what. Full disclosure, I thought I'd have to be dealing with a lot more Gabby Barrett than we have, especially after her near mainstream breakthrough, but it hasn't really happened. Instead, we got this cut that dropped months ago from the deluxe edition of her album, and honestly, this is fine. The ethereal blur of guitars around the more defined rollicking groove, it's pleasant and well balanced. And while Gabby Barrett isn't a singer that really impresses me, the very forward vocal production doesn't help. For this sort of straightforward love song, she actually underplays a bit, and it's not a bad lane for her. Now, the one bad line is on the second verse, "You and Jesus will fix my soul," which just feels oversold for this sort of song, that similar questionable vibe that permeated the good ones. But this track doesn't fully slip into the uncanny valley in the same way. It feels sincere in its quiet love song vibes. So yeah, even though I might not be a big fan of hers, this is probably the best thing I've heard. Decent song. Number 96, Arson by J-Hope. Alright, the last J-Hope song I heard actually made me intrigued to see if he was going to break any more tracks onto the Hot 100 as a solo act, and now with this, well, I get why it's gotten some attention, but it's rough in ways that it shouldn't be. I don't mind the lyrics. Translated, it's highlighting the costs and risks of ambition, and how much does J-Hope want to push his limits, burn out, or fade away, and his restrained, barking staccato delivery works to amplify that tension. But the bassy royal off the rougher drums for a sharper knock doesn't have much in the way of a tune, even as the percussion shifts up. It feels like we're missing a proper melody line to really add some flair, and it doesn't really show up outside of a very muted synth near the back. He got Clams Casino of all people to produce this, and while the texture is certainly here, the tune isn't. Just feels kind of incomplete to me. Not a bad vibe, but this should be better. Number 94, At the End of the Bar by Chris Young and Mitchell Tenpenny. This collab just depresses me. Chris Young used to make good music over a decade ago, I swear to God, and now he's stuck with one of the most obnoxious D-listers in Nashville for an album cut, and it's not the only Mitchell Tenpenny song debuting this week. Now, the difference in vocal talent is obvious. Tenpenny is the fried route register of a Brantley Gilbert ripoff by way of Hardy, but I think my larger problem's with the production. It's trying to go for some country rock bombast that might have been a thing 10 years ago, and the instrumentation does feel mostly organic until you realize there's no real low end or proper groove to this, so it feels weightless in the same way that a lot of Chris Young's material has since 2015, not helped by the utterly generic writing that references 90s country but can't do anything with it. I can't in good faith call this bad, but I also won't remember or care about it. Just saying. Number 90, Free Mind by Tems. Hey, it looks like Tems is finally breaking through with music just on her own. That's nice to see. With a song from 2020, fun stuff. And, I mean, it's alright, I guess. The very spare keys off the clatter and ethereal vocal samples as Tems tries to find what she needs to cleanse herself of stress, find peace of mind. However, I couldn't escape the feeling that I should like this more than I do. Maybe it's that breathy sample that feels a little bit too much in the highs is left in. Maybe it's the questionable mastering all through the song where Tems' voice feels a bit too loud against the backing instrumental, straining to push the atmosphere rather than settling within it. It just doesn't feel as meditative as it should, trying to force it rather than letting it happen, at least until the end where it does smooth out and actually finally gets there. I don't know, I get why so many are so excited that this is now charting, but I'm just not as on board. Hate to say it. Number 85, Truth About You by Mitchell Tenpenny.
Call it truth if you quit telling lies about me. I won't tell the truth about you.
This is the sort of song that sneaks up on you because, at least initially, it seems passable. Yeah, Mitchell Tenpenny is charitably a limited singer who owes his career to his grandmother once being the CEO of Sony Music, but there might be some warmth in the banjo and the pluckier elements. The song feels pretty organic, even if some of the writing can feel kinda clunky if you're paying attention to the rhymes. But dig a little bit deeper and you realize this is gross. It's basically a post-breakup song where this ex is now spreading rumors about Mitchell Tenpenny, and he's threatening to spread the truth about her if she doesn't shut up. And in theory, I get the emotions behind the song. I've had bad breakups. I've had friends where exes have tried to ruin their reputations with made-up bullshit. But if you're gonna frame this song in a major key and say, you want the best for everyone, it feels incredibly disingenuous to run on a threat that he knows the real truth instead of, taking the high road. Not saying anything. Compare this to Next Girl by Carly Pearce, where the power of that track came with everything she's saying, with the caveat that she's burned and jaded, which is more realistic to how breakups work than this, well, I know the real truth nonsense, when bad breakups usually always have two sides to the story. The second verse seems to be implying that for as controlling as she may have been, she also may have been cheating with an old boyfriend, but this is actually a song that doesn't have the balls to say that, playing the exact same game she is with the rumors and implications, but we gotta take Tenpenny's word that he's telling the truth. And I'm sorry, he's not a good enough performer or writer to be credible. Mostly because I'm most familiar with this guy for his 2018 song Bitches that plays to the exact same petty misogyny with an ex-girlfriend. This is just the sanitized version. And when you go to the comments of this video and realize just how many people are framing this as being tied into the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, it just becomes noxious on an entirely different level, reflective of the society that asks us to ignore the history of both men to play the laziest sort of toxic masculine enablement. In other words, it's trash all the way down. Fuck this song. And finally, number 84, To Be Loved, Am I Ready by Lizzo. Oh, I'm not gonna make any fans with this one. Because of all the possible Lizzo songs that could have been pushed from the album, this isn't really one I like. Yeah, Max Martin gives the fizzy groove some propulsion off the seedy organ, and Lizzo sounds like she's having fun, but the synths sound weirdly cheap, and especially when that key change comes through for the final chorus, I feel like it was supposed to put it into another gear, and it just didn't for me. Really frustrating. Then there's the content, Lizzo referencing Truth Hurts, but this song has nowhere close to that song's attitude or confidence, where most of the second verse has her with someone who actually does seem to like her for who she is right now, and she's questioning whether or not she can accept it. It's not a bad sentiment, and as a single, I'd actually argue it works better away from the larger context of the album, but for an empowerment anthem, it feels more built for Lizzo herself than anyone else, which can make the entire experience a little bit underwhelming if you can't directly relate to it. So, yeah, okay, it's fine. Probably would not have been my choice for the next single though, so it's not better than that. And that ends the week. God, it's messy. And we'll just throw Truth About You by Mitchell Tenpenny as the very obvious worst of the week. Nothing comes close to that shit. Now, best of the week, you know what, I know, the obvious choice is Tems, but I'm sorry, the song doesn't really resonate as much as I want it to. And that means I think I have to go with Pick Me Up by Gabby Barrett. Yeah, that one awful line in the second verse. But the production, the groove, the hook, they're all good. I'll give her that. Next week, we might get another quiet week before Beyonce crashes in. We will have to see. I know that Billie Eilish dropped a couple songs. That'll be interesting. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.